Welcome back, everybody. You're watching Yesteryear TV, and these are the best horror movies that we love of 1965. Let's check out the horror films that were scaring audiences everywhere in theaters in 1965. These are the best horror movies of that year. City in the Sea. In 1903, Cornwall, a group of locals discover an underwater city dating back to 1803 that hides a society of smugglers and aquatic creatures. City in the Sea. Next up we have is the thriller that came out from Japan. Gamera, the Giant Monster. Action, horror, and sci-fi. From out of the Arctic comes a gigantic flying fire-breathing turtle that sets its sights on destroying Tokyo. Now this movie was kind of cheesy for its time, a flying turtle, but the Japanese audience loved it. Terror, creatures from the grave. A lawyer arrives at a castle to fix the estate of its recently deceased owner. The owner's wife and daughter reveal that his spirit is wandering around the castle with evil intentions. Next up we have is 100 Cries of Terror, horror, mystery, and thriller. A husband and his lover hatch a plan to murder his wife, and a woman is buried alive in a mausoleum. 100 Cries of Terror. This movie is spooky, thriller, it will not disappoint. Adventure at the Center of the Earth. Sci-fi horror adventure. Mexican horror film with a variety of classic monsters, bat-like creatures, a rat-faced monster, dinosaurs, and a cyclops. This movie has it all. Blood Beast from Outer Space. Horror and sci-fi. Mutant humanoids from outer space kidnap young Earth females in order to interbreed and save their species from extinction. Blood Beast from Outer Space will not disappoint. Bloody Pit of Horror. A photographer and models go to an abandoned castle to shoot some sexy covers for horror novels. Unbeknownst to them, the castle is inhabited by a lunatic who believes himself to be the Rain. Bloody Pit of Horror. Blue Demon. El Demonio Azul. Remember El Santo, the white masked wrestler? Now this is the blue masked wrestler in Mexico. A professor challenges a mad scientist who turns himself into a werewolf. So this masked wrestler goes after the werewolf. Color Me Blood Red. A crackpot artist kills various people to use their blood as his new crimson red color for his paintings. Color Me Blood Red. This is a comedy horror film. So he uses the blood for his paintings. Isn't that kind of creepy? Crack in the World. Action, drama, and sci-fi. A dying scientist pushes forward his project to tap through to the Earth's magnum layer, with results that threaten to destroy the Earth as we know it. Crack in the World. Creature of the Walking Dead. A mad scientist who discovers the secret of eternal youth by draining of blood from a young woman gets executed. His ancestor moves into the home, eventually discovering the scientist's plans. Creature of the Walking Dead. Curse of the Stone Hand. Compilation of 2 Chilean titles. The first adapted from Robert Louis, The Suicide Club. The second, the tale of younger siblings dominated by their evil elder brothers. Curse of the Stone Hand. Curse of the Fly. Motorist Martin Delambre attempts to keep evidence of his family's bizarre experiments in teleportation hidden from his wife, who is hiding secrets of her own. Curse of the Fly. Next up we have is one of the all-time greats, Voodoo Blood Death. A big game hunter bags a taboo lion in Africa, returns to London, and feels a Simba chief's wrath. Voodoo, blood, death. So he shouldn't have been killing animals because now the curse of voodoo is coming after him. Dark intruder. Drama, horror, and mystery. Police call in an occult expert to help solve series of murders. Dark intruder. Next up we have is the eerie film, the horror film. This movie is called Devils of Darkness. Horror. A secret vampire cult, which has its headquarters beneath the town cemetery, searches for victims for its human sacrificial rituals. Devils of Darkness. This is eerie and creepy, but it's well worth watching. Die, my darling. Horror and thriller. A young woman is terrorized by her deceased fiancé's demented mother, who blames her for her son's death. Die, my darling. The titles, I love the titles back in 1965. Die, monster, die. Again, what's with the titles? Die, monster, die. A young man visits his fiancé's estate to discover that her wheelchair-bound scientist father has discovered a meteorite that emits mutating radiation rays that have turned the plants into carnivores. Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. Aboard a British train, mysterious fortune teller Dr. Shrek uses tarot cards to read the futures of 5 fellow passengers. Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. Very creepy and evil. El Pueblo Fantasma, the town of Fantasia. A vampire is on the loose in an old west town. Horror, mystery, and western. So now we have Count Dracula in the Wild West. So check that movie out. It's good. Check this out. Frankenstein meets the space monster. Seriously? A Martian princess and a doctor replace the women on Mars, destroyed by atomic war, by raiding Puerto Rico, while a shot-down android terrorizes all. Frankenstein meets the space monster. The Human Duplicators. An alien is dispatched from a faraway galaxy to take over the Earth by duplicating humans and creating a race of zombies resembling animated pottery. The Human Duplicators. This movie is creepy, kind of corny, but it's horror and sci-fi. I Saw What You Did. Teenagers Libby and Kit innocently spend an evening making random prank calls that lead to murderous consequences. I saw what you did. So they play a joke on someone, but in reality, the joke's on them. Lady Morgan's Vengeance. A young woman is killed by her treacherous husband and returns as a vengeful ghost. Crime and horror. Lady Morgan's Vengeance. This is good. Reap what you sow. You pick on me, I'm gonna get you back. Now, we are in the 60s, right? So check out Monster A Go-Go. This has go-go dancers. A space capsule crash lands on Earth, and the astronaut aboard disappears. Is there a connection between the missing man and the monster roaming the area? Monster A Go-Go. If you like 60s go-go music, you'll love it. The Embalmer. A crazed killer is on the loose in the catacombs of Venice, Italy. He stalks beautiful women, drags them to his underground lair, kills them, then stuffs them and adds them to his collection. The Embalmer. They should recreate this movie again too for 2024. I would pay to see that. Nightmare Castle. A woman and her lover are tortured and killed by her sadistic husband. The pair return from the grave to seek vengeance. Nightmare Castle. This movie is good and spooky. Okay, this is the 60s, right? Orgy of the Dead. Check out the titles now. Orgy of the Dead. This must be some B-rated studio. A couple driving to a cemetery looking for inspiration for a horror story encounters the dancing dead. Orgy of the Dead. That's kind of spooky though, right? You go to a cemetery and then you see dead people walking around. They should visit that. Planet of the Vampires. After landing on a mysterious planet, a team of astronauts begin to turn on each other, swayed by the uncertain influence of the planet and its strange inhabitants. Planet of the Vampires. That's kind of spooky, right? You go to a planet and it's all vampires. Portrait in Terror. A plan to steal a valuable work of art leads to murder, crime, horror, and mystery. He painted the town red with blood. Portrait in Terror. Next up we have is Repulsion, Drama, Horror, and Thriller. A sex-repulsed woman who disapproves of her sister's boyfriend sinks into depression and has horrific visions of rape and violence. Repulsion. This movie is sexual, but it's horror and lots of kills. Sting of Death, Horror and Sci-Fi. A deformed man working for a marine biologist takes revenge on the people that mock him by experimenting with a deadly jellyfish. So this is a deformed man. He's getting picked on, made fun of, and he's gonna get revenge. He can't stand it. A Study in Terror. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson join the hunt for the notorious serial killer Jack the Ripper. A Study in Terror. This is a horror movie, one of the best of 1965. Check it out. The Beast from the Beginning of Time. Horror and sci-fi. After being dug up by two archaeologists, the preserved body of a prehistoric man returns to life and wreaks havoc. The Beast from the Beginning of Time will not disappoint. If you like kills and jump scares, check out this movie. The Diabolical Axe. El Santo, again, the white masked wrestler from Mexico. El Santo is chased throughout 4 centuries by a mysterious masked man called El Encapuchado Negro. El Encapuchado Negro. So he's being chased around by a black hooded person. The Nest of the Cuckoo Birds. Johnson, an agent for the Liquor Control Department, is dispatched to disband a gang of cutthroat still operators on an island in the Everglades run by Doc. The Nest of the Cuckoo Birds. Drama and horror. The Sex Killer. A loner who works in a mannequin factory stalks and strangles women in Times Square. Think about that. A loner who works in a mannequin factory. Remember the movie Mannequin that was released in 1987? The comedy hit Mannequin? Well, this is about mannequins in 1965. The Woman Who Wouldn't Die. Mystery, thriller, and horror. An astute businesswoman is completely devoted to her faithless husband, who must kill her to carry on with her pretty young niece. It turns out that the dead don't die so easily. The Woman Who Wouldn't Die. That's a good movie, though. The Long Hair of Death. A woman under suspicion of witchcraft is burned alive. Her curse brings her back from the dead for revenge. I love it. I love revenge movies. When they kill people off, they may be dead, they come back, or they're not dead, and they're hiding, and they come back for revenge. The Beach Girls and the Monster. Again, more surf movies and surf music. Surfers are being brutally murdered. Is the culprit a sea monster or just one of the teens' jealous parents? The Beach Girls and the Monster. So if you like Go-Go's and 1965 Beach, check it out. The Skull. Horror thriller. A collector comes into possession of the skull of the Marquis de Sade and learns it is possessed by an evil spirit. The Skull. Two on a Guillotine. The daughter of a psychotic magician must stay in his mansion for 7 nights in order to inherit his fortune. That sounds easy, right? I would just hold myself in one room where you'll be safe. Don't let nobody in. You don't want to go out, and you'll be protected. A Voyage to the Prehistoric Planet. In 2020, check this out. This is 1965. In 2020, after the colonization of the moon, the spaceships Vega, Sirius, and Capella are launched from the Lunar 7 station. Voyage to the Prehistoric Planet. They're thinking about 2020. The Wizard of Mars. In 1975, 4 astronauts, Dorothy, Doc, Charlie, and Steve, crash land on Mars, when taking readings with only 4 days of supplies. The Wizard of Mars. Fantasy, horror, and sci-fi. Those were the horror movies that we loved of 1965. Were there any movies in there that you remember watching, haven't seen, would like to watch? Again, I've seen most of these movies. They're all great. Of course, you're starting to see more space monsters, alien creatures. Japan's coming out with Ghidorah, Mothra, Rodan, Godzilla, Ghidorah, all these alien creature monsters. So 1965 was a great year for horror films, and I can't wait to see what 1966 has in store for us. All right, I'm Tony. Thank you for joining me here at Yesteryear TV. If you have any questions, comments, and feedback, leave them below. I'll see you all in the next video.